Okay, so the other day, in my 30-minute Stellaris Major Mechanics video, I kind of omitted war, because in my experience war is a little bit infrequent. I guess that's still a major mechanic though, and you probably need to know how to do it. So let's give ourselves 5, probably 10, but hopefully 5 minutes to go over the major war mechanics. There are several things you need to know, and the first is whether you should. Sometimes you don't get a choice. The AI will attack you, or other players, whatever. And when that happens, you just need to do your best to be ready for it, and to fight it. But things that you can do. So over here, we've got our list of fleets. We've looked a lot at science ships and construction ships. Let's look at military ships. You start with 3 corvettes by default. I've built more. I've got 2 fleets now. The reason I have 2 fleets instead of 1 is because of fleet cap. I've got 30 out of 30 ships, or ship points, in this fleet, and then 12 out of 30 there. You can't have any more ships in a fleet than your fleet cap. You just start building new fleets when that happens. Kind of annoying. Over time, society techs will come up that will let you increase your fleet size. Like this one right here, fleet command limit. You'll also find technology society techs to increase your naval capacity. Now, while this is a hard cap, anything above 30 is just going to form a new fleet, and there's nothing I can do about that. This is a soft cap. If I go above 66 here, I just have to pay an increased maintenance cost for my ships. All ships cost some energy as maintenance. As long as you're under that cap, they cost a fairly small amount. If you go over it, the costs increase rapidly. Right now my fleets are heading from my home system towards Akramalo. I want to go to war with my neighbor, Agosmus here. And let's say I want to try and take these 3 systems. To do that, I would need to click Make Claims. I've already claimed 2 of them. To make a claim, you just click that button. You could also go to this Claims tab, and then I can click on that plus button, and it's going to cost me 48 influence. Alright, I've now claimed that these 3 systems should be mine, and I can start to go to war with the person who owns them. Before I go to war, I want to assess if it's a good idea, so I'm going to look at their Diplo screen. I'm going to look down here. We can see their fleet power is equivalent, their technology is superior, and their power there is equivalent. Let's say I'm like, alright, well, an equal fight is good enough. Declare war. In this war screen, we're going to see, well, actually, there's 2 other AI empires who are going to come to their aid. One who's guaranteeing their independence, and one that has vassalized them. So apparently they're actually another empire's vassals. Both of these interactions tell me these 2 AIs over here are much stronger than my neighbor, and me versus the 3 of them, I'm going to lose. I'm going to go to war anyway. That's the whole point of this video. Now we're at war, and I've got a couple of fleets on their border. Before I invade, there's a few things I want to do. If you look at my fleets, one's got a guy in charge, the other one doesn't. I want to give him a guy in charge, because that is always worth doing, pretty much. Now they've both got a guy in charge, I'm going to drag, select, grab both of them, and I'm going to right-click on this first system to invade. From a right-click, my ships will start moving towards it, and then they're going to hop in. As we wait for them to do that, let's kind of explore what's going to be waiting for us. The enemy, just like you, has to claim systems by building an outpost, and then they have this upgraded outpost called a starbase there. Its fleet strength is 1k, whereas a regular outpost is maybe more just like 100k. I also now have several starbases. I have my home starting starbase. If we look at it, you can see it's got modules. It starts by default with a shipyard and a trade module. Let's pause this for a minute. I switched one of those out for a shipyard so that I can build 2 ships at once. If I had more alloys, I could upgrade this to the next tier, which would unlock 2 more. I could build 2 more shipyards, and then I could build or upgrade 4 ships at once. I can also upgrade any generic outpost that I want. Mine have a fleet strength of 150, by paying the cost for it, and that'll unlock 2 modules, and that's what all of these are. These I also could make into shipyards. Right now they've got defensive modules, but I could replace either of these with a shipyard, and then that one could start building ships as well. So I paused because I want to be here for when our fleets engage in combat. Right now our fleets are heading for this upgraded outpost that's going to defend the system, and my fleets have this pop-up. They are in combat. They'll have the same combat pop-up whether they're in combat with just an outpost like this or with an enemy fleet, and the mechanics are pretty much the same. Once they enter combat, there's nothing for you to do. There's nothing that you can do. They'll just keep fighting until they win or lose. If they lose, they'll randomly disappear and show up in your space some months later. If they win, they're just going to chill wherever it is they won, which they did, so I'm going to send them to invade this next system. That's how the Navy works and how space combat works. There's another component. So right now this system is occupied because I control the starbase in it, and there's nothing else there. And that's true for any system that doesn't have an inhabited planet. But once you get to systems that have an inhabited planet, controlling the starbase isn't enough. You also have to control the planet. You can order your fleets to soften up the planet's defenses by right-clicking on the planet, and the fleets will go in orbit and start bombarding it. That will make the planet weaker, but you won't capture it that way. To capture a planet, you have to use armies. I've got a few in orbit here. This is actually a primitive civilization. I'm going to go ahead and land armies, and we'll see what ground combat looks like. I'm going to click on the planet, click over here to the armies tab. Ground combat is very similar. Once my armies finish defeating this, they'll actually leave the planet, and I can order them back down. In order to produce armies, you don't produce those at a shipyard. You go to a planet, and you click on Recruit, and you can order up some armies. Yeah, that's pretty much the major mechanics. Your armies show up inconveniently way down here at the bottom. You can land them on planets manually if you want, without invading, and they'll chill on friendly planets. Fleets, you can see the strength from this screen, and if I saw a red icon there with a fleet strength of like 5,000, given that my combined fleet strength is only about 2,000, I would run away. But if I saw that one was 1,000 or 100, but if I saw an enemy fleet that was 1,000 or 100, I would jump on it and try and defeat them. Yeah, that's most of the war mechanics, or all of the war mechanics. Oh, last thing, the war screen. So once you go to war, you've got this summary of the war. We're at 9% war exhaustion. They're at 8%. That's just how tired your population is of fighting. When it gets to 100%, a timer is going to start, and 2 years after getting to 100%, your opponent can force you to settle status quo. Otherwise, you might, if you get them to 100%, you might be able to get them to surrender entirely and achieve your war goals. And at any time, you can surrender yourself, letting them achieve their war goals. My war goals were to conquer, as we looked earlier. The systems that I claimed, if I succeeded at the war, I would just get those. If we settled status quo right now, I wouldn't get this third system that I claimed, but I would get these three that I currently control. And I would lose any that they have taken, but it doesn't look like they've taken any. So yeah, that's War in Stellaris.